1. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I am the dad, and I'm the horticulturist. James is the horticulturist in training. I've taken him with a mind full of mush and turned him into a horticulturist arborist. And, of course, James picks up anything and everything like a sponge. He's sharp, sharp, sharp. I always say these days he's half my legs and half my brain. And
keep going.
Well, and it's true. You know, we're out there. We inject trees. I like to say I'm usually injecting the trees from sitting in my car. James is injecting the trees by actually doing it. I mean, I sometimes get out with, I do like my Tada cane that has a seat in it. So I can walk around, and if I can walk, but if I get tired, I can sit for a few minutes and then I can go on again.
Yeah. Well, that's always important. And again, I am James DeFreitas. And of course, I just wanted to say that, you know, if you are interested in our content, of course, this, you know, our program and everything is usually simulcasted over YouTube and Facebook and anywhere you download your podcast. And of course, you can always point your browser to askmrgreenthumb.com. That's ASKMR greenthumb.com. If you actually have a gardening question, you can tap the Ask button in the left corner when you are there. You can do it directly through your phone, so you can actually attach a photo directly from your phone so that we can see what you got going on. And that's usually a good launching point for another conversation to be had, which is to determine whether or not you're having something going right or wrong with your trees.
Sure.
And so we encourage people to always get more information with regards to what's going on with their trees. Now, I know it's been super hot outside, and that's continuing on through September here, and that will be likely the case as we approach October. But we will start to change a little bit. You'll feel a few days in October where you'll go, it's changing.
It's going to happen.
It's starting to become different. I actually want to be outside again, and I'm not thinking about one air-conditioned car to an air-conditioned office for those that go to an office, or more likely a lot of people that I talk to usually are working from home. I mean, you look around my neighborhood, and I live in a townhome community, and in my townhome community, we probably have 35% of the people working from home. So this is one of these post-pandemic things that I've learned is different now, fundamentally different, is that, you know, it basically taught all of these employers that, hey, these people are still pretty productive and they're working from home. Now, are they as focused? Well, I can show you articles that support that, and I can show you articles that say that's not true. One of the things that I've noticed is, and again, I've got a great neighbor that lives three doors down from me, but he likes to walk his cats. And if he had an office job, he takes his two cats out and he walks them in the morning and he walks them in the evening. And now I've never seen anyone ever do this successfully because cats are not dogs, but somehow he has trained his cats to be like dogs and that they will come to him when he calls them. Now, unlike your cat, who would rather bite you as much as let you pet him.
Yeah, my cat, Tanner. He's a piece of work.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty apropos, the picture I sent you, because it was like a picture of a kitty cat that looked like Chucky the doll.
Yeah.
Your cat has a lot of that going on.
My cat is sort of like Chucky.
Yeah, it's like Chucky version of a kitty cat. But yeah, so anyways, one of the things we wanted to say is if you liked our programming, of course, all of our information is on your favorite podcasting. If you want to continue to get this information, of course, you can always go to your favorite podcast and just type in Ask Mr. Greenthumb. You can do that in YouTube. You can do that in Facebook. You can do that in a web browser. So you can literally just go to Google and you can type in Ask Mr. Greenthumb into a search browser, and you will be the number one thing that comes up. So it makes it that easy to get a hold of you. If you go to the website, you'll notice too at the bottom of the website, it says call now. And the reason it is we wanted to make it really simple that if people go to your website, that they don't have to search for a number. There's actually a little green bar that pops up with a phone thing on it, and they can click on that and it'll call you right away.
Yeah, and make sure sometimes, of course, I'm busy, which means I may not get to you immediately, but I will get to you. We just had a call yesterday from someone who has a tree problem, and they think they have termites, and I will get to him later today. But I didn't yet because today was one of those run around here and there and everywhere days.
Right. And actually, I think that person contacted you from the great Carl Yutzi with Yutzi Tree Service, who's also another one of our kind of our partners, if you will, in terms of the tree business. And if you run a tree business and you're out there and you'd like to partner up with us a little bit for the trees that, just need some trimming and maybe need some injections, you certainly could give us a call. They could give you a call. And we could tell you about how we could be part of your referral network.
Yeah, now we're arborists that don't carry a chainsaw, so we refer either to Carl or maybe to
Kelly Stafford Tree Service.
When she's one of our loyal sponsors, and she mostly works like North County, all over. But
yeah, she's more of a general practitioner.
Where Carl tends to predominantly stay down in South St. Pete and the beaches.
He's kind of a Terra Verde expert.
Yeah, he tends to stay down there for the most part.
Yeah.
Probably will come a little bit further north on occasion.
Sure.
But we work with everyone. We often try to solve problems. If you've got an older oak, you probably have pockmarks on that trunk. And if you've got pockmarks on the trunk, you've got some borers. Borers have been trying to get into your tree. And often it looks like a little, I call it like an acne mark. We've all had them when we were...
Or a BB.
BB, when you're going through
BB-size hole.
High school or whatever. But yeah, BB hole looks like somebody shot it. And you go, well, I wonder what it is. Well, if you see a lot of little pockmarks on the tree, borers, which are larval stages of beetles, are trying to get into your tree. And if we catch it early, and it isn't just a one-time thing, you'll have to see us from time to time, and James and I tell you that, we can keep your trees going. We can see a noticeable difference in your trees. We inject them with not only fertilizer, and there's a special fertilizer you have to use. If you just went out and did a real high salt fertilizer,
you'd kill it.
You'd kill the tree. So what we do, in fact, one of my buddies years ago started injecting trees, Mitchell Michael, Billy Bob, and he didn't know exactly what he was doing. And he called me and he goes, I burned all the foliage off this lady's tree.
Did the tree wind up dying?
No, it didn't. They were lucky. It came back out.
Okay, so trees being hardy, they accepted that outcome.
He decided
he was trying to be helpful. And he was learning.
And he sometimes sent me stuff afterwards. I don't think he ever injected a tree again after that.
Yeah, I think I've been hard on Michael over the years, but he's a good guy. He means well.
Does a lot of indoor stuff.
Yeah, so I'll hit the positives there with him. And I think
recommend him for termites sometimes to look for indoor not so much tenting, but other stuff.
Right, for treating. Yeah. For treating indoor stuff.
He's an indoor guy.
Yeah.
So, and his son, I think, helps him like you help me. So that's a good combo.
It is. And and the other thing too, that this is kind of a PSA or a tip of the day kind of thing for people out there. One of the things I've noticed, and this is not related to gardening or real estate, but one of the things I have noticed that a lot of people seem to suffer from is that they want people to be a certain way. And I encourage people to accept people for as they are, and you will be much happier with your interpersonal communications with other people. Just accept that people have a different way of doing things from you, and that's okay.
Some people are better at it than others.
Right. And that's one of the things that, one of my great loves in life is traveling. Right. And one of the reasons that I like to travel, and anybody out there who does like to travel, you learn that there are other ways of doing similar things, and that there is no great perfect way of doing something. There are just different ways of accomplishing the same task. And I think that that's something that we can use. We can use traveling as a kind of an example of how we can learn to interact with people on a more positive note, to try to be more effective in our communications. I think that should be a goal for everyone, to be cleaner, clearer on how we say things, and to also make sure that everyone understands the situation too. One of the things I find too, people, when they write all these emails and these texts and this, all the stuff that happens, is the inflection gets missed. You especially in text messages, you'll say something, but one of the reasons that people are always like, well, I don't know what that emoji means and why emojis were even created. It was created so that you could give some sort of emotional context to the comment that you're giving people, so that they know if you're serious or if they know that you're kidding, or, because it's not easy to tell when you're not talking to people.
Sure.
So
makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm throwing that out there. It's a little different off topic from gardening, but I think it's interesting information for us to take a minute to discuss. So on the gardening front, as we start to head into cooler weather, as we start to think of potentially, dare I say the word fall, what should we be thinking about?
Well, the pumpkin lattes probably. The problem I have is, and people start talking about that now because it's like that's the season. As it's
In September?
They do serve iced lattes, pumpkin lattes. You might try those. One of the problems, I used to deal with a guy named Lewis Maxwell, who wrote a little series of gardening books, actually before I did. And Lewis was a chock full of information. He would say, don't start a vegetable garden before October. And I said, well, it seems kind of late sometimes. And he'd go, well.
Not for here.
He goes, there's a thing called a hurricane.
Yeah.
And if you get these little tiny plants up and they're only 2 inches, 3 inches high, and you do get, let's say not a direct hit, but you get a 40, 50 mile an hour wind, that's enough not only to cause your roof some trouble sometimes, but it'll cause those little plants trouble. I mean, in some cases, if you just put them in and you had a big windstorm coming, I might even dig them back out, put them back in the containers if you saved, and bring them into a protected area because they can move around. A little bit of movement's fine, but 50 mile an hour wind,
no good.
You may find that poor little tomato, looks like the Wicked Witch of the West after the water's been thrown.
So October is the earliest.
You can start to get seedlings ready if you're a gung-hoer.
Okay, so prep maybe the last week of September?
Maybe getting things ready. Maybe adding peat moss, cow manure, perlite, vermiculite if you want, sand if you want. You want to add organic matter. Often I used to go out and get the horse manure even. You'd have to go to the stable and get it and put it in the thing. And then you got to watch.
You've got some horse stables near you. Well,
the biggest problem you have there is horses weed sometimes. So you may wind up getting more weed than you wanted.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And with that, we're going to go pay some bills. Don't change the dial. Don't change anything. And stay with us here on the Ask Mr. Greenthumb Gardening and Real Estate Show.
And you enjoy your day. Enjoy the garden. Go out and smell those roses.
Stay with us.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at StaffordTreeSVC.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And I was going to mention, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant could all be planted now. They like it warm still. You might wait a little bit on the broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. They probably like it a little bit cooler if you're putting in for veggies. You can push it a little bit if you can keep them moist And if it's a little bit shady, they might like it better right now.
And what family is the cauliflower and broccoli in?
They're all in that Brassica group. They're all.
But didn't you call them like a crucifer?
Crucifer.
That's it.
Yeah, they're all because of the way the flower
Well,
looks.
and that's how people can remember it, is that when it's cooler, you then can move to the crucifer.
And, and the Solanaceae families will be the tomatoes and peppers.
Sun lovers.
All those, they'll do well. But you want to make sure you have enough, the right time, make the soil right. I can't stress that enough. I just had the lady in New York a week or two ago who'd sent me samples, and she needed to add dolomite, which is unusual. And I think I charged her like $20 a sample to do this test. And for those that are out there, if they want to send me a sample, you can. I do need to pay my tech to do them. So $20 seems reasonable. We'll do a pH, and I'll let you know if it's, in her case, she needed to add 65 pounds of dolomite per 1,000 square feet. Now, I think it's kind of ironic that she's become sort of my pen pal now from New York City.
Well, you've been giving her helpful information.
And she sent me some leaves, and she had some black spot, and she had some powdery mildew. I thought, isn't that ironic? I don't get too many from right around here, but I'm getting somebody from New York City. But she's in charge of the grounds in the middle of the square of the road, and I think she's helped to sponsor that.
Sure.
And they were using some knockout roses. Now, knockout roses have less problems with black spot, but just because they say there's less, that doesn't mean they're immune.
Right. So you're still going to have problems.
Now, I did talk to a lady yesterday who was a nice lady, and she was saying that she's been using some kelp, and she's been using this kelp on the spring and on the foliage, and she thinks she's having a lot less black spot because of that. And she thinks it's just improving the nutrition in the leaf.
Interesting.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. I actually told her to let me know, send me more information about it, because I'm always looking for, different ways to fertilize. And I like organic. If we can find organic things that work. I'm all
That's
for
the critical word, that work, and I mean, I think, and it kind of boils down to the alternative, electric cars and all of that other thing. I think most people are happy to do something that they think is better for the environment. The problem is that it has to work, and you can't be doing something that's more toxic in the process of making that thing. And then, I think in a lot of technologies that we see today, we have the assumption that something is better when, in fact, it actually produces more carbon emissions over here. And one of the things that's kind of interesting, too, is that this show, of course, will air in a couple of weeks. But a couple of weeks back, I guess I'll say it that way, is that, the Apple released, its big annual release yesterday. Or yesterday. And for you, that'll be 2 weeks from now when this show airs. But
for you, it's current.
But one of the things I thought was interesting about their big release was that they, they were talking about, carbon neutrality and carbon, everything that they're doing. I mean, again, my personal opinion for about 7 or 8 minutes of their program was kind of virtue signaling. It was kind of like, look at how great we are, and of course, and then one of the things I thought was really comical too in this area. And again, I'm not suggesting for a second that big corporations like Apple shouldn't be cognizant of, trying to produce things in a more beneficial way, more in harmony with.
Sure.
But they roll out this segment, and they literally have this lady show up who's pretending to be Mother Nature. And they're sitting at a board table, and she's grading them. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, and they're referring to her as, how have we been, she's like, well, how are you going to disappoint me today, was the phrase. This is my third meeting of the day with boards like you.
Shouldn't she be more of a positive teacher?
No, she was, assuming the worst, and of course, one of the things that I thought was interesting is that, they're like, oh, the new Apple Watch will be finally, it's carbon emission zero, and the way that they get to that is they get rid of the plastic ban, and they've come up with some new material that we don't even know what it is really, other than it's like, recycled woven fabric or something that they've come up with. It's a new material that they've developed. But anyway, but all said and done, so that they can meet this new carbon neutral standard, what they then say is, well, whatever it doesn't do, we offset with purchasing carbon capture emissions credits.
Oh, well, that's kind of cheating in my book.
It's like, well, okay. So in other words, you donate to some company over here that plants 100,000 trees, and then you're good to go on whatever you spend that costs carbon to make said item. So it doesn't. I don't know. I mean,
that seems like fuzzy math to me.
Yeah. So I don't know, but that's kind of their logic. And again, all of these companies.
That being said, I love my Apple Watch, but
right,
and
everyone does.
Phone, but
everyone does. But the issue is for them is they want all of their products to be carbon neutral by 2030, and so this is their big corporate governance idea of how they are in harmony with Mother Nature. We're using cobalt in our batteries, and 100% recycled cobalt, I think, is one of the terms that they used, and it's like. And then for our newest iPhone, it's going to be 100% recycled titanium, and because there's so much titanium out there that people recycle. I mean, I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, well, that doesn't smell right, and it's scratching my nose while I'm doing it. But
carbon capture.
But I did find it a little painful to watch the 7 or 8 minutes of virtue signaling that they did, and that's if you don't know that term, virtue signaling just means that you're pointing to something that makes you seem virtuous, or that you're so much better than somebody else that doesn't do what you do. And some of it's a little bit, I felt my gag reflex coming up.
Hypocritical?
Yeah. I don't know. That's my one little tidbit of the day that I thought was interesting. So
I liked it when we were independent on fuel, where we weren't worried about having to beg Venezuela or other countries who don't like us. Right. We have to go, please. I mean, we know you're kind of dictators and you're kind of horrible people sometimes, or at least your government. But why do we got rid of, let's stop the pipeline, let's stop any drilling, let's stop all these things, and yet but we're not ready yet for electrification of this country. And, well, we don't care. I mean, I know if you can get another job at Burisma or something, there must be another place out there where you can graft some money, but it doesn't seem right to me as an American. I don't like spending $4 or $5 for gas.
And that brings us back to the central point is that, at the end of the day, if you want to be good steward to the environment, and everybody does, left and right of the coin, everyone wants to be.
I'm not picking on any one side more than the other.
Right. But if you want to be a good steward to the environment, save your trees. They are the best carbon sequestration machines that were ever invented. God knew what he was doing when he made trees, and there's a very strong argument that without trees we would not be here, and because at the end of the day you cannot have that level of carbon dioxide not having some way to take that in. So that is something to think about. Trees are good.
I used to have a bumper sticker that said, "Don't wheeze, plant trees," because they help make a difference. And try to keep those trees alive. Don't go in there and just make it the desert. Stay with us as the Plant Talk and Real Estate Talk continues right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com. At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today. Did you know that Stan DeFreitas, Mr. Green Thumb, can come to your house and examine your plants, trees, and palms? His knowledge can help you become the envy of your neighborhood with lush, green, healthy trees that don't just live, but thrive. Palms and oak trees are part of what makes Florida a beautiful place to live, but they get diseases and are often cut down. We offer ways to save your trees. Call or text Stan today at 727-423-4794 or go online to askmrgreenthumb.com. That's ASKMRgreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And someone just asked me yesterday about real estate, and they said, well, your son has Dream It Real Estate, and we know we like him. We think we'd like to use him. Is it going to take a little longer to sell our house? And I said, in general, right now, where things were selling in a week, it looks like it's taken about 65 to 67 days on average. Now, that can vary, and some of that is price point, where you're at. I mean, the problem I always have is people go, well, I got a single wide. I think the thing's worth $1 million.
Right.
And you're going, well, maybe not. So,
Right.
so you got to be realistic on your pricing. On the other hand, a lot of real estate went up. It looks like prices have come down about, 5% in general?
Well, I mean, again, I'm looking at the Stellar MLS statistics. I happen to have them pulled up in case this question should come out. And one of the things that's interesting is it shows the August 2023 average sales price. Now, this is in their coverage area, so it's a huge swath of Florida, and it covers Pinellas, Hillsborough, and tons of other counties as well. And then it averages them out, so you have an idea of what they're discussing, or what encompasses their percentages, I should say. So if we look at, in terms of average sales price, the average sales price is still actually up, okay? So in other words, if we go back to August of 2022, we would say that we had the average sales price was $434,000, okay? And then this year, in terms of July, so not quite 12 months, July of 2023, it was the average sales price was $451,000. So it's gone up a little bit, not drastically, but it has gone up some.
Not like it was a year or two ago.
Right. And actually the months of inventory are about the same as well. So a year ago, the months of inventory was 2.5 months of inventory. Now, for those that don't know what that means, it means that it takes roughly about 2.5 months for everything on the market to be gone. So 2.5 months of inventory is what that's basically telling you. So we're at 2.6 now from a year ago. So we're up just a little bit more in terms of how long it will take, but pretty much holding right there at 2.5, 2.6 months of inventory. So the big number that's kind of changed is the listings sold. But this backs up to, how long things are sitting. Okay, so in August of 2022, we had 16,522 listings. And then as of July of 2023, we've had 14,832 listings sell. So it tells you that, we sold more, okay, last year. And now in the same time, roughly, we've sold less. We've sold, 1,200 units less, or roughly thereabouts. And the pending sales have changed too. We still have, it's still a good time to sell your house. It's just that the problem is that you may find it a little more frustrating in comparison to all of the claims you've heard on Facebook or social media or whatever you look at, and people judge this too. They'll go, well, my neighbor sold their property in 4 days. 4 days! Yeah. Can you believe it there, Norm? We sold it in 4 days. Yeah. And you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, well, yeah. I mean, when I hear people tell me that they sold something in 4 days and it actually does close, then I think you sold it too cheaply. So I'm not a real big fan of something selling in 4 days. I never was. And it became during the pandemic when we had real estate spike, and you get a listing and it's sold within 5 seconds. I'm joking.
Sometimes pretty quick.
But it was pretty darn quick.
Yep.
And the issue, though, for me is real estate agents started to institute some controls. They would put a listing on the market and they would say, not considering any offers until next Wednesday at noon. And they would just put and then please submit all your offers. We'll examine the best ones for the best terms, for the best, from our client, for the best outcome for our client, and we'll let you know. So in a way, it was a quasi kind of auction-like. To me, it was like a silent auction.
Sure.
Where no one really knows how they competed against someone, but, the best one won. And by the way, that's how for those that don't know, that's how timber bids are usually done. I helped participate in a timber bid one time up in South Carolina. And I remember going and thought that was an interesting process because they'd have this little lockbox and you'd have a little slider thing that you could slide your bid in. And literally, it was as informal as you could imagine. When we would go through them, you could see, some guy, Mr. Williams, would write on a piece of paper, willing to pay X amount, we'll replant for X amount, and here's my total that I'll give you, and a phone number and his name. And he'd slide it in the box.
Well,
and that was the only issue with that is it's not very legal. But a lot of times in things in South Carolina, things were still done on a handshake. So
the old style.
Right. And again, there's still a lot of old timers and a lot of places in the United States where a handshake and your word still means something. So even if you are bothered by what you see on television with the bickering going on between people and political differences, there are still some very wonderful people out there who believe in what they say.
Most people are wonderful people that I've come across. It's the rare bad apple that we get on occasion.
Well, and unfortunately, bad news seems to be elevated in status. I mean, if you do something wrong and it's horrendous, then everybody covers it. They never cover this story of the person who rescues 14 puppies from the river as much as they do the triple homicide person.
Well, that used to be in news. They'd say, if it bleeds, it leads.
Right.
And that was pretty true. I mean, it still is today. I mean, I will say some of the stations do try to have the good story, and they will have the puppy and the cat story, or
they'll do it at the end.
Usually at the end. They're not going to lead with it.
Yeah. They'll bury it until the very end. And if you're kind enough and you're good enough and you're a good little boy and girl, you may get to hear the cute puppy story at the end. But only if you're good enough and you're willing to stay with them. And through all the horrible news that they wanted to cover from the A, B, and C blocks, you may, in the D block, actually get to hear about the cute little chipmunk that was saved by some great person out there. But it's just, that's my point, is that we really should try to incorporate positive things into our life as much as we can, because there's plenty of negativity out there.
And for all of you TV producers, James and I are going back into doing more TV production. So if you want some stories, I mean, I watch some of the cooking segments they have on some of the major channels here. I think it adds something to it. If half of your stories you're pulling from Wichita or wherever, that tells me you're not paying for a cruise to go out and do what you used to do. And I understand that. Mm-hmm. But what do you need? You need a Mr. Greenthumb type to maybe do a segment on your show weekly and have me or have James and I record something that you can put in there that will say, hey, because I've done it on 8, 10, 13, you name it, the frequency, I probably have done some time at every channel in the market. For years, I worked with Jocular Jack on Channel 13 and the third best chef in America, which was Mr. Knight. And so, it was fun to do. We only pulled, I think, the second highest rated noon show in the nation, not just in St. Pete, not in Tampa Bay, not just in Florida, not just in the Southeast, but in the entire country. We were number 2.
Sure. And we did a lot of productions too. We did little minute vignettes for Fort Myers. We would have those pre-produced and prepackaged, and we sent those off to them. Gosh, we probably did that for a year. And then eventually we came back and said, hey, it's real fun doing this stuff for free. And I see that you've helped sell it off for yourself, but at the end of the day, you forgot to make sure that the person was compensated for producing these things. And ultimately that kind of fell apart because we didn't have any sponsorship to continue doing that. And then you're basically just producing content for the fun of it, which is great. And I know everyone loves doing that, as evidenced by the amount of content that is out there. But you do, if you want quality content, you do have to have somebody helping to participate in the payment part of it.
Well, I will say that we have 4K cameras. We've got broadcast quality cameras. We've got Sony mics. We've got editing suites. So we've got everything you need to do broadcast quality television. And
matter of fact, a lot of the stuff that we would produce would have to be downsampled so that it can go out on broadcast, because unfortunately
we were sending it higher than they could take it.
We were sending it at a higher quality than most people can take it. And that's, again, these studios, I mean, ABC, NBC, ESPN, even ESPN for one, I know they're on everyone's so happy with them. But the thing that I think is interesting there is, they do like a once a week 4K broadcast of a college game. But it's kind of hilarious that that technology is moving so slowly. I mean, everyone that I know of that has purchased a new TV, usually it comes with a 4K camera, or 4K. It comes with a 4K capabilities. So the idea that we haven't moved in that direction to provide that level of clarity and resolution by now doesn't make any sense to me. And you're starting to see televisions now that are 8K televisions that are out, so that they are ahead of it, even though the studios that are producing content still are not producing content in a way that you could appreciably notice. The other thing is interesting, too, for those that are a little bit techie out there. Again, the more resolutions on something, the closer you have to be to the television to truly appreciate the clarity of it. Mm-hmm. The further away you are, the less it matters. So just, keeping it simple.
Don't get off 6 inches off the screen, but... Yeah.
No, but I mean, with a 4K television, even that, broadcasting a 4K, if you sit 25 feet away, it doesn't matter. You could just broadcast in 1080p and your eye wouldn't tell the difference.
Wouldn't know the difference.
Wouldn't know the difference.
Is there how much radiation are these new TVs giving off?
There's a little bit of heat that's coming off the TVs. Again, I'm a little nerdy, so I've taken a thermometer and I've measured it with, it's about, 98 degrees.
So it's not a lot.
It's not, there's some heat radiation coming off of it, but in terms of radiation, no, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No,
okay.
Other than it, a lot of these TVs do.
I'll have to ask Neil deGrasse.
Well, a lot of these TVs have Bluetooth capability, sure. and they also have, that is a form of radiation, but again, that doesn't mean that radiation is somehow going to cause you problems in the way that an X-ray would.
Well, yeah, but everybody's worried these days. They're afraid of their microwaves.
We're pretty close right now to something that's picking up our radiation right now, which is our voice.
Sure.
So
yeah, I'm not too worried about it, but we're still here.
At least
of course.
Our sound wave, anyway.
We can talk about trees, plants, shrubs, and the like, or real estate. If you've got a question, you can always send it to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb site, even though it may be a real estate question.
They could do that too.
And we work together. We're the dynamic duo. Mm-hmm. So you stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk continues right here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com. At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And a lot of people like to have roses. There are some problems with roses. We talk about black spot, powdery mildew, downy mildew, spider mites, aphids, scales. And other than that, I always say they're trouble-free. But they are still worthwhile. I have a rose that I don't tend to too much, but the thing still lives. It still puts up blooms. And I'm not out there spraying it every week because I just don't do that because I don't like... I spray what I have to, but I don't like to spray just indiscriminately to spray. And I know that seems weird for a guy who has a pest control license. Mostly we're doing tree injections these days. We've kind of switched to trying to save oaks and pines and palms. And that in itself is keeping us pretty busy. Some of the chemicals that we used to use in the old days are gone. And so I've kind of switched and you kind of helped me switch our business model to that. And saving trees to me is just more rewarding because they're taking in carbon, they're taking in carbon dioxide, they're giving off oxygen, they're cooling the planet. So they do so many things that are good. People, I had a lady asked me a week or so ago and she goes, well, what can we do to make it cooler? I said, plant more trees.
Right.
You can see areas we're even in inner cities where they've got trees and they measure with your little heat gun and then they take it, 2 blocks over where there's no trees and it's a big difference. I'm not saying that.
Look at all the asphalt these big cities have.
Those are all these heat sinks that really can make it hotter. Now, I know they used to have the commercial. They said, under our shutters, it's 20 degrees cooler. Well, maybe not. But I will say if you're underneath the shade of a tree and you go out in the full sun, tell me where you want to be.
Sure, and it does help. And at the end of the day, trees are super valuable to life as we know it, and it's something that people please stop using trees to put up a sign and hammer your sign in. They are not actually a stick in the ground made for you to put your "We buy cars" sign or "We'll buy your ugly house" sign. That's not the right purpose of a tree. Purpose of a tree is to live its full life cycle without you putting holes in the tree from your screws or nails or whatever you decided was a great thing to use the tree for. And again, it sort of disrespects the whole reason why the tree exists. And again, on the last break, we said without trees, it's a good chance that we wouldn't be here. So remember to have respect for things, especially have respect for things you don't fully understand.
And there's a good example of that in Gainesville. They used to have a bunch of palms down one of the main drags right near the college or the university. And the kids would put up all these signs, peace and love and love is all that is and all these good things, but they would hammer these nails into the palms. Well, you put a hole into the palm, disease comes along, goes, opportunistic, which diseases are. And we think about bacteria. There's good bacteria and bad bacteria. Every one of us has probably 4 to 6 pounds of bacteria in your system right now living.
And God bless it.
And you need it, some of it. You don't need the bad ones, though.
Right. Well, you don't need more of the bad ones that then make you sick.
Right. Yes. So, and the same thing is true. There are bacterias and there are fungi that get into your palms and they will kill your palm. The same Ganoderma that we see on a palm kills it usually within a year.
Right.
On an oak tree, I've seen it live with it for a long time, 25, 30 years. I almost look at somebody, if they come to me and they're 75 and they've got some Ganoderma in their oak, I'm taking the horse saying that tree's going to outlive you.
Yeah, and I will say this. One of the things, and this is, and we work hand in glove with, as we said already, we work hand in glove with other tree trimming companies because we understand, and again, these people are doing a very valuable service.
Sure.
Now, one of the areas that, and we've talked about this with Kelly Stafford before too, is that one of the rule changes that Governor DeSantis did that was not especially great under his tenure is that he changed, because he's a big deregulation kind of person. And again, I understand the deregulation to a point. But I think one of the big mistakes is with anybody, and this is not just unique to Ron, is you have to go back and look at what the outcome was of the thing that you did. And you have to judge it, what you thought it was going to do versus what it did. And again, this is the part that most people struggle with, is they just assume that what they did was great. They never revisit it, and they only revisit it until somebody is outside with protesting signs going, you stink, and here's why you stink. And so one of the things that I think that is bad is that I don't think you should be able to sign off on your own work. So if I'm a tree guy and I'm a tree company and I run a business, I think it's not a great idea to sign off on a tree and basically serve it its death warrant so that I can trim it down to make a profit from it. Because what's happening in Florida in particular, now that the rules changed, is that perfectly healthy trees are all being deemed trees that are diseased and should come down.
And when you had inspectors before, they would have said no. Now,
Right.
most of the time, they'd say yes. If the tree was
If it met a standard.
and it needed to go, the guys weren't usually ogres about it.
Right.
In fact, sometimes I was called in to look at trees where the homeowners or the homeowner group wanted to keep the tree. And I'd go, well, the tree could stay and should stay.
Right.
And some of the arborists go, oh, there's a chance it could fall. Well, any tree has a chance it's going to fall someday.
Right.
I mean, those are just percentages, and you can weigh that.
Right. And we had Norm Easy on too, who was the former head of ISA on, I don't know, a couple of months ago.
Right.
And we talked about this. We specifically talked about changing how that law was changed. And he agreed that
The pendulum may have swung too far.
That it swung too far the other way, where now we're indiscriminately letting people take things down in a way that's not great. Now, you can fly over Florida and you can see we have tons of trees out there. Did you get enough water there?
Yes, I did.
Sure. Okay. I'm glad our audience can participate with that too.
Well, that's the point, to drink more water.
Drink more
It's more
water.
water. My doctors are always after me to drink more water.
Well, there you go. There's a PSA for you out there. If you're having some nephrology issues, some kidney issues, drink more water and listen to what your kidney doctor is telling you.
And I agree, 1,000%. See, so we help people.
There
Maybe
you
we
go.
save somebody's
You
life.
subliminally suggested to them through drinking the water that they should drink more water.
Can you think of a better PSA?
So Pavlov's water dog, it works.
They'll hear it. They're going to the refrigerator as we speak to get more water.
That's right. Yeah, but as long as they continue listening to our program,
Just turn up the volume.
That's right. As long as you keep listening and you don't leave the program, that would be very, very bad. But anyways, so I think that's something that we probably should circle back around, and I think we should probably institute some more checks and balances as it relates to making sure that we don't allow tree trimming companies to just issue their own permits and say yes, off with its head.
I agree. Now, we just looked at some trees yesterday, which we re-injected, and I was so glad that they came back and said, the trees look a lot better.
Right.
We were so happy that we had you out, James and Stan. But we know that you told us they're going to need a second application, which
Right.
they did. And we're going to need to check them on an ongoing basis. It isn't
Right, now-
a once and done.
Right. And with her, I told her, I said, hey, listen, why don't we consider moving you to potentially like an annual type of
After
position.
we have it under control.
Yeah, now that we have it in better control. Now, what's interesting with her, and I'll just throw this out there, is she also has some palm trees that we treated because we have some strong suspicion that it has some lethal yellowing in it. And that, as Stan and I have discussed many, many times, is that's a bacteria-like disease which is controlled with an antibiotic. Now, but because the tree looked good, she didn't want to treat the tree again, even though prophylactically it probably would have made sense while I was there to go ahead and retreat the trees for palm trees.
I agree.
So this is an issue that Stan and I deal with sometimes, which is that the idea is, well, it looks so good. Why would I want to treat it again?
Because you want to keep it looking good.
Right. And so sometimes we're a victim of our own success, is that we go out and we radically change a tree the way it looks and put it on a different life cycle trajectory. And then all of a sudden people go, why would I want to keep treating a tree? It's already perfect. Why would I want to do that? And I'm like, well, because the tree was largely neglected before you own the property, and I'm not fixing it with one treatment.
And by the way, they did a great job of landscaping. They put in all these little flowers, and grandmother, who's there, who is spry and sprightly, she is putting in more pentas and more flowering plants. She had roses she was putting in. She was doing a great job of making things even nicer. And she had made a nice pathway that kind of moved. If you're putting a pathway in, your eye likes the movement better than it does squared lines.
Of course.
Even though she does have a fence out on the end. But you certainly plastered it with enough signs so people should see it if they're in downtown Northeast.
Well, yeah, not just that. I mean, I'm doing it because we legally have to put a sign out when you're applying pesticide. and I was applying pesticide, but in an internal way. And it is my thought process on this matter that if you do not have a pesticide license, you should not be applying any kind of injections without one, because
That's the law.
Because that would be applying pesticide without a license, and you cannot do that. And I think that is very, very wrong. Well, that's the end of this particular show, but I do want to encourage folks to stick around and listen to the great, great Dr. Bill Handelman, the eclectic Dr. Bill Handelman. And with that, I'll let you take it away.
Well, the wealth of knowledge that Bill has is just astounding. So you'll always enjoy his show. And we want to say that go out and take a time to smell the roses. And as Teddy used to say, live it up.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online aflre.com.